your new friend Ty.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Tea Party Podcast. It's the podcast where you find new friends and new music. This week, I'm joined by a familiar face to anybody in the Northwest country music scene. He's the founder of the Inland Northwest Country Music Association, and he's here not only to give us an inside look at his music, but also to tell us all about their upcoming awards show this month. Let's welcome to the show, Mr. Rusty Jackson. Rusty, how the heck are you, my friend?
I am fantastic.
That is great to hear. I'm excited to learn how you got into music and how you started this little thing we know as the IN-CMA. We'll talk about that next when we tee off with Rusty.
It's time to tee off with Ty. Here comes the first four.
Okay, here we go, Rusty. Question number one. If you couldn't be in the entertainment industry, what job would you have?
You know, that's not too hard for me because music is actually my fourth career. And so I did three other things before this. And the one I liked the most was probably software development.
Interesting. That's not a path you see crossed with country music all that often.
Yeah, you know, a lot of software developers are musicians, though. I found that out over the years. There's some connection between the part of your brain that you need to make music and that you need to make apps.
That makes sense, I think.
Yep.
Okay, so question number two, and I feel like you've done this a lot as well. If I give you the control of the music at a party, what's the first song you're going to play to get everybody up and moving?
I'd probably play some old Hank Sr.
That's a good choice. Any song in particular?
You know, something like Hey Good Looking, maybe.
Okay. I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Typically, my go-to is Family Traditions, just because everybody knows.
Oh, yeah.
Knows
You have to wait till people are drunk before you play that song. No,
that's true. It's definitely a crowd interaction song, and the alcohol helps with that a little bit. Okay, if you could bring a fictional character to life, TV, movies, book, wherever, and hang out with them for a day, who would it be?
Oh, gosh. I guess it would be Hank Hill.
Nobody's ever asked me this question, but that is 100% my go-to answer. There's something about Mike Judge that his characters I just relate with so well.
I'll tell you what.
Exactly. I introduced that King of the Hill to my 9-year-old the other day, and he hasn't stopped watching it.
That's pretty classic stuff.
It definitely is. Okay, last question of the first four, Rusty. If you could have an unlimited supply of anything, whiskey, guitar strings, scotch tape, tacos, whatever, what would it be?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. I'll say something cheesy. Happiness.
Happiness. Okay.
And I've got it, really. I have it already.
You seem like you're enjoying yourself. Every time I see you, you got a smile on your face.
You know, it's funny. People catch these candid pictures sometimes, and I look really, really serious, and I think, who is that guy? Because inside, there's a party going on most of the time.
Well, Rusty, man, that was the first four. Thank you so much for playing along. But now let's get to know you a little bit. Give us the story of growing up and tell us how you first got into music. It had something to do with Hank Williams, right?
Absolutely. I grew up in what I call a hillbilly enclave in Southern California. As most people know, a lot of people from the South migrated west during the first part of the 20th century, and my grandparents were part of that. And so then we grew up, Johnny Cash, Hank Williams, Merle Haggard, Marty Robbins, all these people were playing on the record player all the time. And then, you know, we had radios too, so we heard the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and everything. But those were the big influences. And I saw this movie about Hank Williams when I was 9 years old. And I remember this very distinctly. I remember in school, they would always ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And up until that point, I really didn't have a good answer. Most of the boys in class would say fireman or policeman, but that sounded way too dangerous to me. So I saw that movie and I thought, that's what I want to be. I want to be the guy that writes songs and sings songs and makes people feel something.
And you kind of jumped right into that, didn't you? You were in a couple of bands in Southern California.
Yeah, when I was a teenager, I started playing in the honky-tonk circuit down there.
Well, and what was that like being in the music scene in Southern California at that time? Because really, you know, right around that time was there's a mecca really of music in Southern California of all genres.
Yeah, like the like the Eagles were playing at the Troubadour and stuff. And there was this weird convergence happening. All the rock bands wanted to be country bands about that time. The Byrds, when I was a kid, put out a country album, and then the Eagles, of course, and Poco, and it was just kind of a thing. But I was playing with this old honky tonk crowd. I was 19, and everybody else. There was one other 19-year-old guy, and then everybody else was over 40. And it was a good training. I kind of learned the catalog and learned some of the tricks of the trade from some of these older guys who had been playing for a while.
Well, and then you went off and did what you call living some life in between there. So what pulled you away from the stage for so long, other than family, I guess? I
met a girl in one of the bars I was playing in.
Always trouble.
Yeah, we ended up getting married, and so then she basically said, "Hey, I don't want you going back there. You caught your limit." And so actually, that probably was the best choice. In my 20s and 30s, me being in bars 5 nights a week might not have been a good thing. But I ended up shifting over to just playing music in church. And I played music in church for about 25 years. Didn't do it anyplace else.
How'd you get from Southern California up to North Idaho, to the Northwest, really?
Yeah, all the time we were growing up, my dad was constantly saying how much he hated California. And he was born on the way out west. He was born in New Mexico, but then grew up in California, hated it. And then he sadly passed away. And I have 4 siblings, 2 brothers, 2 sisters. And we all kind of, once he died, we said, you know what, we got to fulfill Dad's last wish. We've got to get out of California. And we all moved en masse to North Idaho in 1994.
Was there something about North Idaho that drew you there? Is that just kind of the family consensus?
We'd looked at a few places, but then one of my brothers got a job here. So that was the final straw.
That makes it easy for you, I guess.
So, yeah.
Well, so since then, you've kind of made a home for yourself in the Gem State. And we've got a couple of songs here to talk about your music a little bit. The first one, kind of an ode to living in North Idaho. It's called Living in Idaho. And honestly, I think anybody that lives in this area can relate to this song, regardless of which side of the Washington-Idaho border they live on. You've got a little bit for both people there. Give us the story behind how this song came about and what the writing process was like.
Well, it started with one of my nieces, actually my only niece. And she went to college in Seattle. And then when she came back home, she told her mom, I don't want to live in Idaho anymore. There's nothing to do here. And so it started with that idea of, there's no nightlife in Idaho. But then it sort of morphed after that. I started comparing Idaho and Spokane and laughing inwardly about how people on the different sides of the border think that the people on the other side are so different. And actually, that song has grown a lot. We've added new verses to it when we do it live. But the main hook and the thing is, when you're living in Idaho, there ain't no place to go. And now when I sing it live, I usually say, there's no place I'd rather go, or there's no place to go because you're already there. Because I fell in love with Idaho when I moved here. I feel like I live on vacation all the time now.
I can imagine that. I mean, we really do have the blessing of living in one of the most beautiful places in the country with some of the coolest people around here.
Oh, yeah.
Well, so let's give everybody a chance to hear the Rusty Jackson sound, and then we'll talk about what it's like when you're up on stage. This one for everybody, it's called Living in Idaho by today's guest, Rusty Jackson.
Living in Idaho, living in Idaho, there ain't no place to go when you're living in Idaho. All them people from Spokane, they cross the border whenever they can. They like to buy cigarettes and gas, but they make our traffic jam. All living in Idaho, living in Idaho, there ain't no place to go when you're living in Idaho. and they don't care. They sell that wacky tobacco over there. Oh, but you better not use your phone when you're driving that weed back home. Yeah, living in Idaho, living in Idaho. There ain't no place to go when you're living in Idaho. Head out to Ponderay, take the kids and make it a day. How fast the summers go when you're living in Idaho. Living in Idaho, living in Idaho. There ain't no place to go when you're living in Idaho. All the winters in Idaho, they're mighty dark and cold. Spring comes, the rivers flow, but there's still no place to go. Living in Idaho, living in Idaho. There ain't no place to go when you're living in Idaho. Hey, 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 living in Idaho. I'm living in Idaho. There ain't no place to go, 'cause I'm living in Idaho.
That one was called Living in Idaho by Rusty Jackson. And Rusty, you talked about it a little bit. It's a little bit different now when you're up on stage and you play the song. But for somebody out there that's never actually seen you play live, what can they expect when they see Rusty Jackson on the bill?
Most of the time, I'd say 95% of the shows I do, I spend most of the time singing the songs I grew up with, the Johnny Cash, the Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson. We do a show called the Highwayman Tribute. We just did a show called An Evening with Hank and Patsy, where we go even farther back. And then we do a little bit of, more newer country. We do some of the country from this millennium, but not a bunch. And then we also do a little bit of the rock and roll that I grew up with too. Some of the Beatles and Chuck Berry and, that kind of stuff too. So it's a lot of it is just memories that I'm doing up there on stage. And then I pull out some of my originals and share some of those. Kind of depends on if we've got a lot of the places, when you're playing as a local musician, a lot of times you're just background music. So if I'm playing background music, I try to play stuff that people will relate to, that they've heard before and everything. But if I get at least one person in the audience who's looking at me, then I'll start talking to them and I'll tell them about my originals and I'll do a couple of them.
That is a solid way to go about it, especially here. You just got to get that one person in the room and then you're off to the races. We talked about it a little bit. You have the IN-CMA award show coming up, and I want to talk about that in just a second, but will you be performing there?
I'm actually just going to be backing up. The girl that's been singing with us all this summer is Cassandra Wheeler, and she's fantastic. And she's been with our band doing a bunch of shows with us. And so she's also nominated for female vocalist. And so she's going to do a song and the band is going to be backing her up.
Well, that's awesome. So before we get into the award show itself, because I'm really interested to hear about that, tell us about the Inland Northwest Country Music Association. My first question is, why create it? My second question is, how did you create it?
Well, I started doing this about 8 years ago. Like I said, I played in church all that time. And then I thought, I wonder if I could go out and play country music again. And so I jumped into it. I noticed that everybody was on Facebook saying, hey, look at me. This is where I'm playing this week. And then honestly, I haven't told very many people this, but there was an aggregate page that would list all of the live music. And I kept sending them notices telling them where I'm playing, and they were ignoring it. I found out later that another guy in the band I was in had pissed that guy off. So that's why he was ignoring all those. So finally, out of frustration, I thought, well, I'll just start my own. And so I started this, and really all I did the first couple of years was just liked and shared every country music event that I could see on Facebook. And that was, and people appreciated that. The other artists and everything were like, oh, hey, thank you. And when you get a third party validating something, that has a lot more weight than just, hey, look at me.
No, absolutely. It's interesting. That's kind of the same idea that we had behind creating this podcast initially, was just that platform to give these artists another avenue to kind of promote their stuff. And now you're involved with all sorts of stuff going around in the Inland Northwest. And I don't know that people from outside of this area really understand how big of a country music culture there is in the Inland Northwest. I mean, you've got some giant festivals. You got Watershed, Farm Jam, and then Haggfest, which is something that you're involved with as well on top of the IN-CMA. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, the IN-CMA sponsors Haggfest, not Hogfest. And Merle Haggard passed away in 2016. So really, it's in 2017, I got this idea. There were people like Merle Haggard, for example, who always paid tribute to the people who came before. Like Merle Haggard did a whole album just about Bob Wills, and he did an album, I think, just about Lefty Frizzell. And so when he passed, I thought there should be a Merle Haggard tribute. And so the first couple of years, we just did the Merle Haggard tribute at a bar. And then in 2019, it started in 2018. It was around my birthday, which, by the way, is actually coming up like in 10 days.
Oh, hey.
So it was like October of 2018. And make a long story short, my wife had passed away from pancreatic cancer. And when that happened, I threw myself into the music business even more, because I thought that's the way I'm going to distract myself from sitting around and feeling sorry for myself. And so in 2018, I was thinking to myself, what could I give myself as a birthday present? And I was thinking about this Merle Haggard tribute that we were doing every year in April. And I thought, let's take that Merle Haggard tribute show to bigger. Let's take it to like the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane. We'd just been doing it in bars. Mm-hmm. And so we took it to the Bing in 2019, had a great house. We didn't pack it, but we were at least 3/4 full. We had 16 different artists come and pay tribute. It was just a fantastic night. And so we of course, 2020 slowed us down and everything. But last year we did it at the Coeur d'Alene Casino. And this year in April, we're going to do it at the Fox Theater in Spokane.
Well, that's awesome. I can't wait to get out there for that. But you've got another event before that coming up later this month, the 5th annual IN-CMA Awards. We've talked about it. It's going to be my first opportunity to go this year. I'm really excited to see what it's all about. I had my first chance to go to the CMA Awards when I was living in Vegas last year. And it's a different experience being at an award show like that. And I'm excited to see what you guys are able to put on a scale like that here in Spokane. But tell us about what's going on there. Can you spill the beans on anything, like who's performing yet?
Yeah. Well, actually, if you go online on Facebook, there's an event and it'll list everybody who's going to perform. We're going to have 26 acts all performing one song each. We try to open it up to all the nominees. And so we've got the Copper Mountain Band. We've got Aaron Crawford. We've got the guy I haven't met yet, but his name's Joel Gibson Jr. He's more from over the other side of the state.
Joel Gibson is absolutely fantastic, by the way. I'm excited to see him there.
Yeah, we're really so. And then we've got Joey Anderson, and actually Joey helps organize all that part of it. He does like the stage production part of it for me. And we've got, I'm trying to think of who else right now that's slipping my mind, but we've got just a bunch of the people that are nominated. And we did this the first time in 2018, and we did it at the Kroc Center over in Coeur d'Alene. And it was really just amazing because it's a great show, but it's also like a family reunion. It's like all the people that don't get to see each other because we're all out gigging all the time. We get together this one night. And when you get in a situation like that and you're a performer, right? So 26 acts are going to perform and I get 3 minutes. I'm going to give you the best damn 3 minutes I can give you.
Oh, absolutely. And I've seen a lot of the shows, a lot of these performers play out in shows. If you were at Watershed, if you were there Thursday night before everything kicked off, Joel Gibson actually played the I think they call it the hub there at the center of the GA campgrounds this year. Aaron Crawford's been there. He's actually been on this show. There's so many of these guys, Rusty, that I'm excited to see again in person. You're right, just like a big old family reunion. And the one thing about music is no matter, what's going on in the world, you put everybody in a room like that at a show like that, and it's going to be an absolute blast. Everybody's going to forget about everything else and just focus on what a good time that's going to be. Where can people get tickets for this, Rusty?
NorthwestCMA.com.
Nice and easy. We'll make sure to include a link to that in the description of this show as well. And you've got so many different categories out there, Rusty. No podcasts yet, but we'll talk about that later. Well, give us some of your favorite categories out there that people should keep an eye on this year.
Well, I mean, so we try to pattern it after like the CMA Awards. We have male vocalist, female vocalist. We've got entertainer of the year. We've got, we break it down into regional touring acts, and then we have just local bands, and then we have solo acts, and we've got some songwriter stuff, best song of the year, singer-songwriter of the year. And then we also recognize the venues and the radio stations and the radio personalities. So we pull all that stuff together, all the stuff that sort of brings the Northwest country music into focus.
Well, I, for one, am excited to get there and to see that and to see everybody in person. How long can people vote? Is there a cutoff day, or are you guys going right up to the show?
The voting ends at midnight on Friday, November 7th, which is always confusing because midnight is actually the next day, the 8th. But it's Friday. Friday night is when it ends.
So Friday, October 7th?
Yep.
Perfect. That's actually, so we're recording this Thursday, October 6th. We were planning on putting it out next week. How about we just put this one out tomorrow morning, Rusty?
Oh, that'd be awesome.
So we'll do that. But
now, and we've had over 2,300 people vote so far.
Wow.
Which is about more than 4 or 5 times what we had last year. The response this year has blown up just out of it's crazy.
That's awesome. Like I said, I'm excited to be there. If you guys are going there, make sure that you post about it on social media, help drive the word as well. And I'm excited to see all of the artists. But again, one of them being you. We've got one more song here for everybody. This one feels like it's got some personal lyrics now that we've talked about your journey. It's called Never Too Late. Give us the story behind writing this one.
Well, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, in 2016, my wife was diagnosed with stage 4 terminal pancreatic cancer. Huge blow. You get that. That's just the biggest punch to the gut anybody can get. And we faced it together and fought it together. And she lived 1 year with that and with treatments and things, got a little bit of quality of life back. But she passed away in 2017. And about a week after that, I was, just in a funk, and I just thought, how am I going to get out of this? And you ever seen those scenes in a movie where a little angel sits on your shoulder? Mm-hmm. And the little angel leaned over to me and said, you know what you got to do is write a whole bunch of, I hadn't been writing. I'd been out performing a little bit, but I really hadn't been writing, which was the vision I had when I was a kid. I wanted to be a writer. So this little angel whispered in my ear, you need to write a bunch of songs and cut an album and go on tour. And this little devil popped onto my other shoulder and said, it's too late. You should have done that when you were 20. You can't do it now. And so I wrote the song, It's Never Too Late. And it was the title cut of the album that I made. And I went on tour that winter down to Southern California, where I grew up, which was a nice place to go on tour in the wintertime.
I bet that seems fitting to play this song down there. Let's take a listen to it now. It's called Never Too Late by Rusty Jackson.
It's never too late to start chasing a dream. I know your body's getting older, but your brain's still 17. All them candles on your cake, they don't mean a thing. 'Cause it's never too late to start chasing a dream. It's never too hard to start out again. Oh, what choice have you got? You know this ain't the end. And you've got the heart, I've seen it, my friend. It's never too hard to start out again. All that I had, everything that I am, I watched her go, I saw it end. But I'll be all right, I'm still in the game. And it's never too late to start chasing a dream. We went for a walk until we got tired. I know you worked your tail off, but still you got fired. And now I'm sitting on the bench, but I'm still on the team. And I know it's never too late to start chasing a dream. Some songs make you laugh, some songs make me cry. The point of this here song was to make me ask why. I put away my plans and my schemes when I know it's never too late to start chasing a dream. All that I had, everything that I am, I watched her go, and I saw it end. But I'll be all right, you know I'm still in the game. And it's never too late to start chasing a dream. You know it's never too late to start chasing your dream.
And you heard it from Mr. Rusty Jackson himself. It's never too late to chase your dreams. Rusty, you've been fantastic. I'm excited to do this again. I'm excited to get to the IN-CMA awards. We end every show exactly the same way. We call it the Final Four. These questions are probably a little bit tougher than the first four, but you never know. Sometimes these ones are a little bit easier. You up for it?
Sure.
It's time for the Final Four.
Okay, here we go. Question number one. What's your favorite guitar brand or style?
Well, I play a nylon string guitar, which is unusual. Willie Nelson is the only other artist I know out there that does country with a nylon string guitar. But and it's what I play most of the time, and I really love it. There's things you can do with it that you can't do with a steel string guitar, and I have a Yamaha, and then I've got a Godin too.
Nice. I'm trying to get my kids started on the nylon strings because I've heard that they hurt less when you're building the calluses. I've already got those, so it's hard to judge. But maybe there'll be a third someday. Okay, question number two. Who are the three most recently played artists that you've listened to on your Spotify or Apple or wherever you're listening to music?
Oh gosh, probably Sam Lighty. And there's a guy here named Miller's Son and he recorded a song with this gal that, and they're going to do it at the show. Miller's son and Chrissy Sumring are going to do this song he wrote, and I just listened to that the other day. And then I'm always kind of listening to the classic country that I do too, so probably Johnny Cash.
Those are all really, really solid listens there, Rusty.
Yeah.
Okay. When you're out on the road doing your thing, touring, wherever you're at, and you pass this place, you always have to stop. What is that place? Restaurant, grocery store, gas station?
I don't know if I have a have to stop place, but I'm the guy, like when I did my little tour, I took my nephew with me as a driver, and he was constantly, let's go someplace that they don't have at home. Let's go do, and I'm not that guy. I'm like, no, let's go to Denny's. I want to know what's on the menu before I walk in there.
That's fair. I can understand that.
So Denny's, I guess, is the place I have to stop.
Okay. So here, this is a bonus question here, just because I'm curious. They've got the diner style Denny's in Spokane on Division, or they've got the normal sit down style Denny's. Which one do you prefer?
Well, they built a like 50s style diner Denny's right here in my hometown of Post Falls.
Okay.
And it's all decked out to look like a diner from the 50s. It's pretty cool.
See, that sounds like a quality Denny's.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Rusty, here we go. My favorite question to ask. It's the last one of the show. If you could pick one thing for people to take away from this podcast or from your music in general, what would it be?
You know what it usually ends up being? I mean, we have a lot of fun living in Idaho, but the Never Too Late song, I just did it the other night at the Union Gospel Mission in Spokane. And I've done it in retirement homes and places like that. And usually the message in that song really is like, hey, it's never too late. You know, keep living, keep doing the things you want to do, keep doing the things that make you happy. Don't give up on life. You know, there's still something left for you to give, and there's still some happiness left for you to enjoy. So that's the message I usually have in general.
This is almost 100 episodes, Rusty. I've been asking this question on almost all of them, and it sounds like I'm blowing smoke, but I'm not. That may be my favorite answer to that question this whole time. Never give up. Keep on living. It's never too late to do your thing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Honestly, if you got a second, okay, I'm totally
absolutely.
I'm totally living the dream that I had when I was 9 years old right now. When I was 9, I didn't say I want to be a singer, songwriter, performer, and play in arenas. I just said I want to be a singer, songwriter, performer, and that's what I am. So I'm living my 9-year-old dream right now.
There you have it from Mr. Rusty Jackson. Rusty, thank you so much. I'm excited to chat with you in person at the IN-CMA Awards coming up later this month.
Awesome. We'll see you there.
And that was another episode of the Tea Party Podcast. It's a country music podcast where you find new friends and new music like Rusty Jackson and the upcoming IN-CMA Awards. Get your tickets now at the link in the description.
Go tee off on the like button at facebook.com/Tea Party Podcast.
This has been a Tea Party Communications production. Theme music created by Jesse Quandt. Announcer voiceovers by Jay Gwinn. And as always, hosted by Ty Pisani.